welcome to Let's Pour Up. My name is Colina Bruce, and I have two guests with me today. Each of my guests make up one half of Sync Seattle, which is a networking and community building and PR company. They also both work in the tech industry, and they are married. Their last name is Love. Welcome, Tanise and Derrick Love.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
y'all
having
for
us.
being here.
Thanks for having us.
So we always start with a moment of meaning. So I'm going to start by reading a quote, and I'm just going to ask you to respond to it.
Okay.
So the quote says, "Community is more than just a gathering of people in a room. It is a sense of caring about one another and for something. Sometimes you have to create what you want to be a part of." How do you feel about that quote?
Ooh, it's deep. Just initially, I think I was thinking about like the greater sense of community. So
Yeah.
when you have community or you're wanting to find community, of course, you want the benefit for self, whether it be social, professional, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But then true community is like coming together for like the greater good.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so I think, yeah, just initially I just think about like the greater good and how we solve problems in the community or solve problems for ourselves. Help, we all need help.
Yeah.
It's through the community. It's finding your
Absolutely.
community.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think about it and I think of, just people finding purpose through community, So if we think about our society now, the way it's structured, it's like everyone for themselves, and it's easy for us to find ways in this society to just discard people as though they're not worthy but when we live with a community-based mindset, we realize that everybody has some piece of the puzzle that we need. And when we all feel included, we all feel like we're a part of something greater, we find our purpose, and there's less animosity, there's less negativity in the world because of that. So it's why I value community so much. I believe, we all bring something to the table that's valuable.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to start by getting to know you both a little bit better. Where are you all from, and what brought you to Seattle?
Yeah, so I'll start. So I'm originally from Gary, Indiana. I say that, people always say Michael
Jackson.
It's funny because my grandmother actually grew up on Jackson Street and
wow.
would see, it was a whole thing.
That's crazy.
But anyway, so I'm originally from Gary, but I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2010.
Okay.
And that's how I met Derrick. And then we lived there for 10 years. Had an opportunity. I'll let you speak about how we got here. But yes, I'm from Gary.
Okay.
Moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for grad school. Met the
Nice.
love of my life, and then
Come on,
that
love
got
of
us,
my life.
That got us here.
Yes.
And so me, I'm a military brat. I
Okay.
was born Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They changed the name of it. It's like Fort Liberty now. So moved up and down the East Coast, lived in Korea, but moved every about 2 years growing up. Ended up settling in Charlotte after college, and got the opportunity with a major tech company working in cybersecurity here in Seattle.
Okay.
Couldn't turn it down.
Nice.
We didn't know anybody
We love
here.
that.
Yeah, we moved in the middle of the pandemic, and so that was kind of wild. Everything was like locked
That's
down.
challenging in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, we're moving across the country. So
it was like literally November 2020.
Yeah.
And then moving into the darkness.
That was
Right.
an experience.
And it was just such immense uncertainty. Didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So y'all came here, and from my understanding, you experienced what you would call the Seattle freeze, or what we hear of as a Seattle freeze. What is the Seattle freeze? What does that mean to you guys?
Okay. So here's the thing. Did we experience it? Maybe to a degree. So the Seattle freeze, as I've interpreted it, is people being friendly, but not necessarily wanting to be your friend. And, people kind of have their cliques.
Yeah.
And so I hear people talk about it. We experienced it to a degree.
Okay.
But I feel like in that first year and a half that we were here, before we actually started Sync Seattle, we were meeting some pretty dope people
Nice.
throughout and making good connections. But I kind of see where people would say that because, you meet people out while you're out and about and, you know, people might say, some nice things to you and you try to strike up a conversation and you do that a little bit and then it's like, okay, bye.
It's like it's one of those like, how are you doing? But they don't really want to know how you're doing. They just say it because it's nice to say.
Yes. Yeah.
I get
that.
So,
I don't. Yeah, and I know it's kind of weird because it's like it's there, but it's not solely our experience or like the foundation of why we started Sync. So I think for me, like, the freeze is similar. It's like, and I think the difference for us is because coming from like the South or Charlotte, North Carolina, there's that Southern hospitality, just as if you were like somebody who came from New York, you come with like what you found wherever you're from, if that makes sense. And so we're all bringing our different experiences. And so I think sometimes people here will experience not having like a friendly culture. But again, that's a lived individual experience. And I think sometimes it can be unfair to Seattle or Seattleites to cast this, common feeling or common way of like thinking about how people act when that's not everybody.
So and that's kind of what I want to ask. So I'm born and raised in Seattle. Never lived anywhere else. And so I think a lot of times when Black folks that, might be transplants or just moved to Seattle, whatever the case may be, they're like, man, there's no Black people here, or it's hard to find, like, where are the Black folks? And so sometimes we're like, we're here, guys.
Right.
But also I think the nature of Seattle has changed in a way where like if there's not an event or there's not like we don't have some of the things that used to bring us all together regularly or even like clubs and stuff. I mean, I'm old, so a little far removed, but I mean I remember there being a ton of different clubs and lounges and different things you could go to pretty much any night of the week.
I've heard the phrase vanishing Seattle.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've heard that a couple of times,
and so I feel like whenever we would have people come visit from out of town, we'd have to find out like, okay, what event is going on?
Right.
What, so I wonder, have you all received any pushback in terms of like Black folks that feel like they're not necessarily, how do I want to say this? Have you all been, have you encountered Black folks from Seattle who are like, hey, we want to work with you, or have you found any ways to be intentional about working with like groups that are already here?
Absolutely.
I think us coming here, like from the get-go, we always said like, yes, we're transplants or transients, but there's already like so much good being done. And so even before we moved here, we were looking into Black-led nonprofits to see who we wanted to get to know, who we wanted to invest in. And so it's always been important to us to uplift like what's already happening, what's already going on. So that's why when we were like looking at who we want to highlight or businesses that we want to partner with, we're intentional about looking at people who are like either from Seattle or like long-standing businesses or nonprofits and people who have already been here doing the work. We just want to come and help uplift it. So that was really like very important to us from the get-go.
That's awesome.
Black Seattle's pretty dope. Like it gets a bad rap. Within our first 2 weeks here, there was someone from Black Seattle who showed us a whole lot of love with 23rd Ave Brewing, right? And so like we won one of their Instagram gifts, and they came by, dropped it off personally, and like was just sitting there welcoming us to see. Like we told them, we just moved here. We're welcome. Like and we talk about cliquishness and things like that. That exists somewhere everywhere, right?
For sure,
But no, I feel like people have embraced us because we didn't come here on a mission of we need to teach Seattle Black culture or something like it's here. We just want to do what God put us on this planet to do, which is bring people together. We like bringing people together. We like serving the community. We also like having fun.
Absolutely.
So let's do it all together.
For sure.
and so that's what it's about. And if we can do that with people that are from here, and people who are come from all other places and bring other experiences too. That's amazing,
For sure. Yeah. And I can attest to that as well. I've had the opportunity to work with you guys, and we've had some fun events. So hopefully we'll do some stuff this summer. But it's always a great time. So.
We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Whenever
that's
what we're gonna do.
The day gotta end.
Yeah. Right. And so we've been. We both come from that kind of background where, we grew up in the houses that was like the house that people gathered in, And then if you go further back in both of our families, like my grandparents, both sides, their houses were that. Tanise, the same way. Yeah. And so we have that in us. It's in our blood. It's in our energy. So since we got married, we've been doing that. We're not really doing anything differently than what we've been doing outside of just being more formal about it, putting it out there. And, before we started Sync, we would have get-togethers and say, bring canned goods or whatever cause we were trying to support. We're going to have a good time. We know you're coming because you want to have a good time. We might as well use this opportunity for us to support the community too. And so that's what it's about for us.
Yeah, and I think that's what we always try to make sure people understand. Like, we were doing this like before we even knew or heard about opportunity in Seattle. Yeah. So I'm talking like 5-6 years ago. God had put in our heart, like, okay, y'all are always doing this at the house, like ultimate kickback vibes, having a good time. So like, take it public. And I think we were so comfortable in Charlotte because we had our community. We just kind of set on it. But we had a business plan in like 2016 to do this, just to do what we naturally do. To help highlight and elevate Black business and nonprofit. So it's like us moving here, we're just kind of doing what we were supposed to do years ago.
Pulled out of our comfort zone. And
I think it took God snatching us up and saying, like, I'm going to put this beautiful opportunity in front of you, but now it's time to really
take you out your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And you're going to do what I put you here to do.
And once you come out of your comfort zone, that's actually when you start to grow and you start to see things differently. So,
that's real.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering, so I do want to add a note too. I think that you all coming from different places and coming to Seattle have probably seen Black culture in different ways than how it exists in Seattle. We don't have like HBCUs. We don't have homecomings like that. We don't have. So is there anything you miss about being home, or is there anything that you hope to see kind of Seattle highlight in the future around Black culture?
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question. For me, I would say that I think there's a lot of things that was really prevalent, like in the South, that you're starting to see more of here. You're starting to see more things like day parties and brunch and stuff like that.
The brunch culture,
you're starting to see. I'd love to see more of, but you're seeing a lot of this, like the arts. So some more of the Black centered plays and musicals, and like you would see a lot of that in the South because you'd have your more mainstream musicals and plays and stuff like that, but then you'd have groups that are like, okay, we're gonna put on this play that tells this story for us, and so I guess more of our own storytelling, and not from a standpoint of so there's the storytelling, the Black storytelling that is like it's more sensationalized and something that's, I guess, more consumable by non-Black people. But then there's the Black storytelling that is us and our real stories and our day-to-day stuff that's not sensational. It's stuff that we can relate to,
for sure.
That others may not be able to relate to. So I can say I miss some of that, but we're not far off. Like it's there's a lot more Black culture here than people give credit.
For sure, yeah.
I think for me, And this is, so I come from, my background is technically in nonprofit, even though I work for a tech company now. One of the things that I'll say, like, even when I was like a cookie selling Girl Scout, back when I was little, it's like just the opportunity to volunteer with people that look like me at places that are led by people that look like me.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to a bigger problem of like capacity building because, you know, Black led nonprofits, they only get, I think it's about 2% of funding compared to their white counterparts. And so because they have these like smaller staff or limited capacities, there's not as much time to like curate these volunteer experience or even for them to take time to figure out like what type of help they do need. And so I think it's been really beautiful, like just getting to know various Black led nonprofits here, but a lot of them don't have like a ton of volunteer opportunities. And I think I'm still trying to figure out like why and how to help support that. Like if the answer is we don't necessarily need the extra hands. We just need the dollars.
right.
Look, let's raise some money.
Yeah.
But I know like in the South, and it could just be like a geographic thing, but there was like a plethora of opportunity to gather people together to give back to a local nonprofit. And that's not necessarily an issue. It's just kind of like a thing that
it's something that
because that's how I started my career, helping a nonprofit build out their volunteer program and bringing in these big corporations to not only be donors, but to have these experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
So from a social impact standpoint, I would love to even like advise or help nonprofits like build up their volunteer programs.
Okay. Nice. That sounds like a call to action.
Yes. Hit me up. I love to help. But on the opposite end, so in Indianapolis, we always had this huge Black Expo. And I'm talking about like, it was like thousands and thousands of people. Like people would even like come into Indianapolis for the Black Expo.
Nice.
I think I forgot to mention that earlier. I'm born in Gary, but I was raised in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And so we would have, it would always be like, I think July. And so like for that week, you was prepping for Expo. So it would be both things to do. The convention hall would have hundreds of businesses.
Yeah.
And then of course there would be like parties and concerts and just all the things. And it was just like this Black culture moment for Indianapolis. And I'm like, I don't know if anything like from a wide scale exists like that, but I would be happy to help build it.
And so that's a really good point because I did an internship in Indianapolis. I remember Black Expo. Yeah. That was the week the Black interns we shined. We loved it. Like we and it wasn't just parties, but it was like Tanise mentioned, it was very enriching. There were business seminars, there were cultural events.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then when we lived in Charlotte had the CIAA tournament, which was it's an HBCU basketball tournament.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Never been, but
it
looks cracking.
It was in Charlotte for 15 years.
Okay.
It's in Baltimore now. But those types of events, one, it shows the economic power of our community.
Yeah.
Because that event brought millions of dollars into the Charlotte area and the Charlotte region just in that week.
I bet.
But on top of that, what happened was kind of like here, in the wintertime, people don't really go out and it's rainy. It was like that in Charlotte.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't go out. A lot of those bars and clubs and restaurants were operating in the red at times until CIAA came at the end of February, beginning of March.
That tourism.
Boom. Now it's like, okay, and that gives them their boost into, the spring, and so what happens when you have something like that showing the economic power of our community, now we've got to be taken seriously, at every table. And we have to, now we can talk about scholarships. Well, we're bringing this into the city. You guys have to, give scholarship money here or whatever it is, right? And so that's something like that would be.
I think it's just like some type of citywide collective gathering that benefits businesses, nonprofits that officials, the state, that people like can really get behind, not just kind of like this little thing.
So a couple of little plugs I have to put in. So first of all, we need the Sonics back.
Come on,
basketball team.
Oh yeah.
It's evident that people miss basketball here, but also, like you said, it's a source of revenue, not necessarily specifically for the Black community, but I'm pretty sure, secondly, so you talked about arts, and I wanted to plug Acts on Stage.
Yes,
they are
absolutely.
an amazing Black theater group.
Yep.
They center their theater programs around people of color and people of faith and telling stories from their perspectives.
Absolutely.
They do the Teen Summer Musical every year. And my baby's been in it for 6 years.
Yeah.
And she's auditioning again. But this summer, they're doing Snow White and the Seven. They always take in a bunch of youth of color. Usually it's anywhere between 50 and 100 young people.
Wow.
And they practice 9 to 5, Monday through Friday during the summer. And then they put on this production. And this year they'll be back at the Benaroya Hall, which is amazing.
Well, you've already sold some tickets to us.
So we gotta plug those things. And the other thing I was going to say, my background's in the nonprofit sector as well. And so I need to do more research around Black organizations that are specifically either seeking out volunteers or putting on those sorts of opportunities. But I know you're a member of the D9.
Absolutely,
and so we have opportunities too to just, bring young people along and go out and do street cleanups and all sorts of things. The Greek picnic, which is, we need to get that back up and going. So
yes. I'll say so you brought up D9 culture.
Okay.
It's definitely much more active down south.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I miss is that,
for sure.
Me and the brothers would every month we had something called Frat House Fridays in Charlotte, and so that was just. We're not talking about the mentoring program. We're just kicking it as brothers. Right. Yeah. And we go to the frat house and we'll play cards, we'll watch the game, whatever it was. And then every quarter during that, we invited a different sorority to come hang out with us.
Oh, nice.
And we had really tight bonds just all across the NPHC.
Yeah.
Even fraternity to fraternity, we talked junk to each other, but played basketball and tournaments against each other and things like that. But at the end of the day, we loved hanging out with each other. And that's one thing I'll say I miss though as well is I'd love to see some more cohesiveness here amongst us, and there's a lot of us here.
Well, we're old heads now. We're a little further removed, so we don't know what the young Greeks are doing. But I will say
I have a hard time accepting that old
we're OGs now. I was a stepmaster. I still claim that title, but we got to turn it over to the young ones. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely feel like D9 culture is I know it's not as prevalent here.
There's a lot of us here.
Yeah, there are a lot of us here though. Lot. Yeah, so we got to figure that out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, well we're going to move into a game. Okay, so there's a trend on TikTok and it's who's most likely. Have you guys seen that where you point to each other?
Okay,
This is the couples edition.
Okay.
So I'm going to read the questions out and you're just going to point to whoever you think is most likely to be this person.
Gotcha.
You guys
see
ready?
How much it matches up. Let's see. All
right. Who is most likely to fall asleep during a movie?
Me.
Who said I love you first?
I think it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Who is the first to apologize during an argument?
I think me. It depends. It depends.
Okay.
It depends. We're both pretty quick to do that.
Okay.
Once we kind of calm down.
You need to process a little bit.
Separate stimulus from response. Yeah.
I've done a lot of growing.
Okay. Who spends more coins? Who takes longer to get ready?
Oh, me by far.
Who snores the loudest?
Him.
We have video proof of that.
Oh, no. Who is more romantic?
I would say her.
Okay.
More consistently wanting to do romantic things.
Okay.
and I do the bigger gestures.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was gonna say it's
That-
kind of
yeah.
shared, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a good way to put it.
A fair
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah.
Okay. Who has better taste in music?
Yeah, he used to be a DJ.
He's a DJ. Yes.
Yeah, so
Who's funnier?
you're
Okay.
he's hilarious.
Who is more likely to get grumpy when they're hungry?
Me.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about
That was gonna
hangry.
be you because that's me all the way. Like, who is more likely to text the other person from another room in the house?
Oh, me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do that often. I do that.
Who's
often.
more adventurous?
I kind of want to
Ooh,
say me.
I say her.
but
I
Okay.
say
it's,
her.
it's about
Yeah.
becoming even.
Okay,
Yeah.
last
More
one.
even.
Who is the better dancer?
I say
Me.
her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys know each other really well. You
Pretty
agreed
good.
on most of the things.
I know.
Okay.
We're celebrating 10 years of marriage this
Yes,
year.
come
so
on, 10 years.
It's been a minute.
What are y'all doing?
We're actually having a renewal in Cabo.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Are you
Yeah.
planning this grand gesture? Are you planning
It's-
together?
So there's something coming. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Gotta go.
I can't wait to see
All
it
right.
on IG.
Yes, it'll be fun. We
Okay,
said we want to
perfect.
do something fun. We just want to vacation with our people.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
You deserve.
We're
Well,
looking forward.
congratulations. 10 years is no
Thank you.
easy feat,
Wow.
especially making it through the pandemic.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It was a
Rough
great
times.
10 years. I actually think the pandemic brought us closer.
That's awesome.
Brought us a lot closer. When the pandemic started, I was just finishing grad school.
Mm.
That was a rough time
Grad
for
school
us.
was rough.
Yeah.
We got that degree together.
Yeah.
Okay?
Listen, that's
Yeah.
what my
Both went to
husband
Columbia.
says. He's like, listen, I
Yeah.
need to be walking across that stage with you.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
And so, it forced us to slow down
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
because we were going.
Yeah,
we were going-
yeah, yeah.
If we slowed down, spent a lot more time together. So I think it brought us together. I know-
It forces you to learn each other in different ways
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But
right.
also to understand like what are the ways that we've been super comfortable.
Yeah.
Like what do we how can we switch this up?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we spent the beginning of it just like I gotta get out of this house, gotta
Yeah.
get out,
Yeah.
and then it was like, okay, well let's look for the blessing in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of stuff that prior to the pen, and I can't even really fathom the life we were living prior to that because
It doesn't even feel
wild,
it's
yeah.
like it's
Always
like what where what was I
Yeah.
doing
we
before?
were always somewhere.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was so much, and I remember being tired a lot. you
Well,
know?
I actually want to ask you guys that because I feel like y'all have something going on all the time, like
Mhm.
at least once a week. How
Yeah.
are y'all practicing self care? What does that look like?
Good question.
I could do better. Me.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do better recently.
Okay.
I think we actually had a conversation at the top of this year. We were like, we have to like carve out time for
Yeah.
both us together and then just
Mhm.
us in our own lived experience because we do be going hard.
Yeah.
Whether it be just us hosting or
Yeah.
we really try to show up, for community events. And
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
Also just kicking it and hanging out with
Yeah.
friends. So and then working. So it is a lot. And I think that we both could do better. But I don't want to speak for you. I could
I
definitely
mean,
do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do a lot better.
Okay.
But we're finding little things.
Mhm.
Something we just started doing is now that it's getting nice again. We've got this rooftop deck over our garage, and
Mm,
so in the morning, we go out and we'll drink some coffee together out there.
nice.
It's a little chilly this morning, but it was cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Out there
But-
for about 5 minutes
But that's
today.
so, no, that's awesome
You
though.
know,
Yeah.
and that-
Little things
that-
like that.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity to just say, all right, now I got a whole bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah.
We know the day is about to start, but we're going to hit the pause for a second, and we're
Yeah.
just going to drink some coffee,
Mm-hmm.
talk, hang out, not just exist in the moment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not think about anything else, and enjoy the beauty around us.
Yeah.
And that actually helps us start the day off on the right tone.
Mhm.
I could see why because even though it's more of like an organic, like being present, you're still being very intentional about that action.
Mhm.
That's right.
And I think that starting your day off that way is setting the tone for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's dope.
Absolutely.
Congrats on
Absolutely.
doing that.
Thank
It's that's
you.
I
It's
mean,
been
it's a little
good.
shift, but actually, like you said,
It's-
it could change.
It's the small things in life add up over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and yeah.
Yeah. And I
Cool.
think for me also, I've been trying to begin longer walks. So just like spending more time in nature, exercising slowly. But that's something that like I intend to do much more this spring and summer for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we get a good little summer.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah,
I'm trying to be out in these streets too, though.
Yeah.
Outside is calling.
Yeah, the self-care thing is hard, and I'm sure you probably find it hard too, because I know
you're talking about us.
I know you're a giver. And givers struggle with that, right?
It's very hard. I think that it's something that I have to be very intentional about.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out the work-life balance every single day, and I talked about this in kind of our first episode, but really just like turning off the phone or just putting it on Do Not Disturb has been helpful. Because you don't realize, I mean, unless you're looking at the hours, right? You don't realize how much time you're spending just mindlessly scrolling and looking at stuff, and how much you're taking in. And then how much you're not paying attention to like what's actually in front of you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Then it can become doom scrolling, and then it's like, just some of the stuff you're ingesting into your mind.
Those middle of the night scrolls, I think, is like, okay, I'm going down a rabbit hole of craziness.
That's real.
I went down a real weird rabbit hole middle of the night. And I woke up. First thing you woke up, I said, "You want to be freaked out about something?" I was looking at hybrid animals.
Oh,
I was like,
weird. It was weird.
How did you get down that rabbit hole?
I don't know. I didn't know that there was such a thing as a wolfen. A whale and a dolphin.
How does that happen? Is this like a man-created thing, or these animals that are mating?
I saw pictures of them, and I'm like,
is this real?
I don't know how that thing actually happened.
Right.
But and that I was up for like an hour and a half, freaked out, looking at different stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, I should have been asleep.
You know what gets me down the rabbit holes is whenever I watch a movie that's based on like a true story. As soon as it's over, I start looking up all the facts. Like my husband will look over and he'll be like, "You're looking up."
Especially like a crime or something.
Yeah. I'm like, did you know? And did you see? And did you see that hidden message? Like, it's just
do
ridiculous.
You look at like the stuff that they sensationalize for the movie versus
I actually look up truths versus myths in this particular movie. It's really bad. It's horrible, but that's what I do.
Oh yeah, you can get stuck on that for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Okay, well, we're going to move into a segment called A Win is a Win. And so typically during this segment, we talk about, I ask guests to share their challenges or successes or a lesson that they've learned along the way. But I really wanted to take this time to talk about something a little bit deeper that you and I both have in common, which is experiencing grief. And so my disclaimer is that I have not talked about this publicly yet, outside of one other instance. And so, and I know that you, we share kind of a loss in common. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. But also the overarching theme is, how are you able to find wins in the midst of grief? Because I know that at least for myself, I lost my mom unexpectedly in October, and she was a person that I shared my wins with. And so the wins don't really seem as high. Things can seem really low. It's really hard to kind of find those moments of happiness. And I also, Derrick, for you, wanted to know, what does it look like as a partner to support your partner during grief? So I'll have you start.
Thank you for just like opening the space for me to talk about it. And if I end up crying, it's just
we'll be crying
loved
together,
unexpressed. That's one of the things I heard early on, is like your tears are just, it's like the love that you can't physically express to them anymore. But I'll say, so a win. So looking at my journey, so, unfortunately we do have that in common. I lost my mom unexpectedly too. And she was my rock, my world, the person I talk to every day, like my go-to, right? And so when I lost her and then losing her unexpectedly, I lost myself, like 100%. Like lost. So I've considered myself pretty like personable, social, like smiling often. And when I tell you, I went to a very dark place because I'm just like, one, I wasn't prepared for this. Like, no one can prepare for any kind of death, right?
Yeah.
But like my mama, like it just hit so different. And when I tell you, I feel like I just kind of like gave up. I lost my spark. I lost the desire to like do things. Like I went through it. I actually went through grief-induced insomnia. So for like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks after it happened, I was just up.
Same.
And it's like every time I tried to like, I finally dozed off. I thought, damn, like she's gone. And it was just like, and so now I'm walking around looking crazy because I'm tired.
Can I just say something? You just said something that I didn't know there was a term for it, because I went through the same thing, but I was just like, I can't sleep. But I never realized.
So after like, I think like week 3, I went to my doctor because I was like low-key really worried about myself. And I was like, 1, I'm not sleeping, but 2, like this sad, like I was like, I just need help. Help me.
Like, help me.
And so she shared that it's like a common thing that happens, but a lot of people just don't talk about it.
Nope.
So I ended up having to take off work because I was just so out of my mind. Like I just could not function. It was bad. And then so after the like taking that time off, I went through intense grief therapy, which helped. But really it was just like me losing myself. And so I think my win from that is what I found is that like someone said to me early on, like, your mom now gets to like live life through your eyes. So how dare you not try to live it the fullest? And I thought, well, that's hard as hell. One,
right? That's a lot of pressure.
But more so in the sense of like, she wants to see me thriving. Like her desire, like right now, like they're probably looking down on us like, look at our baby girl. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard to like put that at the forefront of your mind. But I try to, because I'm like, you know, how dare I not, like, I am blessed to still be here on earth. She instilled all these lessons in me. I'm literally half of her DNA.
Right.
Like, it's low-key, I feel like my duty to try to just show up the best that I can every day. And some days that might be me in the bed the entire day because I'm sad. Like that is still very much me often. And so I think my win was after about 6 months I took off work, went back, was not aligned with like the role or the company that I was at, and was fortunate enough to find another role. And so I think it was finding that new role and just having like this fresh perspective. I remember like one specific night I was just like on the couch, couldn't sleep. And I was like thinking about how I had really lost myself, like just completely lost myself. And so I just pulled out my phone and started writing like all these notes on my iPhone, like things that I want to do. What are things that could bring me joy? Like, what are some things that I could revisit from the past? Or what are some things that I need to like get it together? Whether it be like, I need to work on my budget or whatever it may be. Just like all these thoughts like poured in. So for hours, I'm just like kind of writing all these things. And I was like, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to get my vibe back. I was like, I need to get my vibe back. And I was like, what can I call it? I was like, I'm going to call it revitalizing my vibe. And that day, I was just like, every day, I'm going to try to do like one thing to get my joy, even if that is like looking at pictures and crying my eyes out and remembering what she looks like. And so I think the win for me, sorry, I'm rambling now.
No, you're not at all.
The win for me was finding that I will always have grief. Even though I will always have grief, I still have the opportunity to take it moment by moment and see what grief is teaching me. So I just try every day. Like sometimes it's like, dang, I should have wrote that recipe down because I wish I could just call her and write it. Or sorry. You know, sometimes it's just like thinking about like moments where I do want to call her. Like when the Beyonce album came out, I was like, I did this early on a lot, like picking up the phone to call her and not being able to. And I did that when her album came out, and I was like, fuck, like this hurts so bad. But also let me actually really listen to this album. And it ended up bringing up memories of like my childhood and being at my grandma's house. And so I actually ended up getting some joy out of that really, really dark moment.
Yeah.
So I think my win is just moment by moment has been my saying since she passed. And I think my win is now truly taking moment by moment to just be within my grief, whatever that looks like on any given day.
Absolutely.
Sorry, that was super long.
No, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that embodied all of it, you know, and I'll say throughout our relationship, you know, just being a partner with somebody, you inherit all of that, you know. When we first started dating, literally, it was like the first weekend we were like, okay, we're together. Tanise lost her grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember that and supporting her through that. Since we've been here in Seattle, like it's been marred with loss for us. We lost my grandma. And if we put it in context, COVID, so we didn't see a lot of people.
Right.
We moved across the country. So we're just waiting for COVID to end, and we're going to go back to all of our visits with everyone. Well, we lost my grandmother, you know, here. And then a couple of months later, we lose Tanise's mom. And that was like watching that, how that affected Tanise. I knew it was like Tanise's world was crashing.
Yeah.
And I could see that. At the same time, I was real close with Tanise's mom, too. So I'm grieving as well. But I'm also realizing and understanding that, okay, her world's crashing. She's my world. So that means my world's crashing, and I have to find a way to support her in this.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about this part of it yet before, but there was a point in time when we were back in Indiana, and Tanise was kind of going back and forth between, I think I need to stay here for a couple of months, or no, I'm going to come back when you come back, or I need to come back here every couple of months, you know, or every month to check on my dad and my family. And so I could tell just from those conversations, she didn't understand for herself what the future was going to look like. And for me, what the biggest thing I wanted to be able to do was give her some solid foundation. So when she was staying there for a couple more weeks, when it was time for me to come back, I was pretty insistent on coming back when I did, because I knew what we left here. Because the way it happened and the way we found out, we left and it was complete chaos, you know. I said, I need to get back to our home, and I need to make sure everything is in place and chill. When she comes back, I want her to come back to a place that's peaceful. So when she came back, everything was clean, like the apartment that we were in, everything was put together. We had groceries. I'm like, I want her to come back to a situation where it's like, okay, I don't have to figure out tomorrow and the day after that. Life can move on. And so that was my goal at that point. At the same time, I was struggling. I was struggling myself a little bit, because I didn't, I'm one of those people that things have to make sense to. And there was nothing about my mother-in-law's passing that made sense to me. You know, we did, you know, at the time, we didn't even really have a good cause, you know, at that time. And so just me being the type of thinker I was thinking through, and I'm like, something has to make sense out of this. And what I guess the win in it for me was, one, having to trust God a lot more and saying, God has a plan. And in that plan, we all have a date in which we're going to leave this earth. And so to rationalize that in my mind, I had to realize we don't own anyone. Yeah, that's my mom or my wife or my cousin or whoever, but we don't own that person. As God determines their destiny, not us. And the big thing that we have to be able to do is have the gratitude for the time, the moments, the experiences, the love, the difficulties, all of that we had with that person, and how that person has shaped us. And if we don't have that type of gratitude for that, you spend the rest of your life that you have to live in resentment for things, And so that specific situation taught me that. Yeah. And then again, a year after that, we end up losing more people. We lost my aunt. That was a long battle that she had with some illness. We went to that funeral. Literally leaving that funeral, we get the call that my uncle passed. And so I don't know how I would have reacted to all of that, then, but like I couldn't imagine a loss the way we lost Tanise's mom.
Yeah.
That would be harder at that point because, again, none of it made sense to us. It was just out of the blue, and it hurt bad because we really loved her, and she had just visited us here.
She had just came in May. Yeah. So I think one of the things that I'm sorry, I don't.
No. Go ahead.
I think one of the things that excites me about keeping forward with Sing Seattle is that she was at our launch. She happened to be there the same.
Cool. Yeah.
She was the life of the party.
She was at one point the crowd got quiet and everybody was like,
where is everybody?
Surrounding her. And I'm like, what the hell? But I think one other really quick thing is just the greatest gift that I've learned from it all, I think, is the power of vulnerability. So something that I worked through in therapy was you have to begin relying on other people. Before her, excuse me, you felt like you're this strong being. You had a pretty happy life, and now your world is crashing. Now's the time to open up and rely on your people, which was so hard for me because I'm used to being the giver,
right,
wanting to help. And so, my therapist challenged me. She was like, "I dare you to practice vulnerability and watch how much the world opens up and takes care of you."
Yeah.
And I feel like once I started actually asking people for help, which was hard as hell.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I ended up feeling more comforted, more taken care of, and more I don't have to have this weight of the world on my shoulders.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
One other thing that happens when you lose people, you really start to examine their life and who they are.
Yeah.
When you got people with you, you do that kind of, but it's oh, I've got them, I can call them.
Yeah.
But you start to examine their life. And one thing I'll say is, we've talked a lot about your mom since she's passed. We talked about the things that she does or did and how she affected people. I see more of your mom in you every day.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. I see more of your mom in you every day now.
Interesting.
And I think it's because you really examined her life and the impact she's had on your life.
Yeah.
And you inherit a lot of the things. And part of it's me examining her life too.
Right.
Saying, oh, that's where she gets that from. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you guys for sharing and being vulnerable and open. I know this was something that we haven't actually talked about off camera. So just to have this conversation, I think just in reflection to what you both shared, there's some kind of eerie similarities.
Yeah.
My mom passed unexpectedly. We still don't know the cause.
Same.
I saw my mom was at my I saw my mom the day before she passed, and she said she wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
And she was going to go to the doctor the next day, and she had her doctor's appointment, and she passed at 10 a.m. Never made it to the appointment. So it was very challenging. My mom worked at the shop with me, so I was used to seeing her. I think I never imagined a life without my mom.
Right.
And so just having to live in that reality every single day. I mean, I had the insomnia. I still to this day, whenever something good happens, something bad, it's I pick up the phone to call my mom.
Yeah.
It's it's a daily reminder. And so part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast was I think that, I have some things to offer people, and I think I have some valuable insight, but also I felt selfishly that it could be kind of therapeutic and being able to talk about those things and process those things. I need therapy, real therapy. I haven't done
we all do.
I haven't had the grief counseling yet. My best friend Tony, she sends me texts. She's a Black therapist, so she sends me text messages every week. Here's a list of resources. So I need to do that. I need to make time for that. But I just feel like it is so. It's just it's hard, you know. It's really, really hard to, you know, live life without someone that you thought would always be there. And so I think it is important to still, like you said, it's like, what would that person want you to do? What would they want for you? I think a lot of times, for me personally, I try not to do. Like, people are like, oh, what would Miss Patty do? Like, me and Miss Patty didn't always see eye to eye.
Right. Same with me and my
mom. So we're not, you know, I'm not going to do what Miss Patty would have done per se.
Right.
But I, like you said, I do live my life with a different kind of motivation.
Right.
To continue forward her legacy of those seeds that she planted.
That's right.
Anyways,
thank
you guys.
You actually, you have a very free look on your face just talking about that.
Like, I don't feel very. Listen.
Like, it's like, I mean, talking about that stuff is tough, but
it's
you know,
really hard.
It brings out a different part of you. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like I'm naturally not an emotional person. So part of it is trying to allow myself to feel emotion.
Right.
But I also have kiddos who are looking at me. And I feel like, you know, you have this concept of like, I have to be strong for them. I have to be strong. But they also have to see you cry. They have to see you emote. You know, that's important. And so I'm working on that too, instead of trying to always be the strong person, understanding that like sometimes being strong also means feeling all the feels, all the things, allowing yourself to feel those things and not feeling guilty about that.
Absolutely. You know, yes, humanizing the experience.
Exactly.
And crying and feeling upset and sad about something that important to you is not the antithesis of strength at all whatsoever. You know, it's sometimes it is the pinnacle of it. You know. So that, you know, there's that. So, you know, if you find yourself in that moment, don't make yourself feel like, oh God, I'm a crybaby. What? No, I mean, we all gonna do that.
I know. Somebody told my dad early on, was like, tears are your way of communicating with your loved one, and it could be happy tears, like, oh, I have this happy memory, or it could be like, I'm messed up in the head and I need you right now. But it's like just it's our form of communication.
Absolutely,
so, That helps.
Well, thank you guys again.
Yes,
for the conversation. Yes, we are going to wrap up with a pour up.
Yes,
and we're not drinking; we're pouring up and pouring into each other.
Absolutely.
So typically we do like an affirmation card or something. But today I've asked you, Tanise, to prepare an activity for us.
Absolutely.
So that we can experience that. And one of the reasons I asked you was based on the fact you've already mentioned this, but you have an ebook that's out.
I do.
And so this activity comes from your book.
It does. So I should have this pulled up before, but
I do it every episode. Blake be telling me, put your phone away.
So I talked about the list that I wrote on my iPhone and ended up sharing tidbits around like how I'm getting my joy back and revitalizing my vibe. And it ended up being like so profound for my own personal experience. Like I really feel like I worked to change my life and my thought process for the better that I wanted to share with the world. So I ended up turning it into an ebook.
Yes.
So, in my grief therapy, at the end of each session, we would actually say this together.
Okay.
And it kind of just like level set the work that we had did together, and then it's something that she would good Lord.
Oh wow.
I'm breaking down, okay? I'm breaking down over here.
Life is life.
I'm just
That's what this podcast is about.
But we would say this together at the end, and I think it kind of just like helped put everything into perspective that we had just talked about.
Okay.
So I'll say it, and then you guys can repeat it back.
Okay.
And we'll just go through one round. We would do it 3 times in grief therapy.
Okay.
Okay. So it's, I am on a journey to be happy.
I am on a journey to be happy.
I am free.
I am free.
I am healthy.
I am healthy.
I am whole.
I am whole.
I am me.
I am me.
That's it.
Yes, I received that.
I like
Thank
that.
you.
I like
Thank
that.
you so much.
The healthy thing, we'll wait to see what my doctor says later this month.
Whatever health means to you.
Yes.
And she would say, even if you're not feeling it in that moment, it's something to think about and aspire to.
Absolutely.
So
thank you.
Well,
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being here and making time to be here. I know
thank
you're
you for
busy.
having us.
Of course.
Yes, this was really this is
awesome.
Fun. Yeah.
Before we head out, please let the people know how they can find you, what's going on.
Yeah,
we be out in these streets.
Come
holler at us.
Right,
yeah.
right. So I guess with Sync, like the major stuff that's coming up. So every third Thursday we have our networking event.
Okay.
6 to 9. You can find us at syncseattle.com or sync.seattle on Instagram.
Okay.
And then we're celebrating our 2-year Sync Seattle anniversary in May. So lots of things.
Yep.
Lots of things coming up. So just go
on Facebook too for some of the people my age.
Yeah.
And then just my own personal journey. I talk about grief and life and all the things.
And looking cute AF while living life, finding purpose, and living with grief. I was on your Instagram, girl.
But yeah, it's life, beauty, grief. So,
yes.
yeah,
okay.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
a
you
wrap.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all. Love y'all.
This is so good.
Thanks.